Good morning, guys. So, oh my God, as I look at myself in the camera, holy cow. Um, so yeah, it's still the butt crack of dawn, and I got a download of information. For those of you who know, you know. And before it slips away with the day and, doing laundry, paying bills, going to work, yada, yada, I wanted to get this information down while it's so fresh in my head. I know some of the outlandish, crazy bullshit I've ever heard. Bear with me as we do this. So, the pieces of a puzzle. We've got all these pieces of the puzzle laying out, and it's like, how do we put the picture together? And I'll be the first to say that I think that there's more than one way to put the puzzle together, because it's going to be a picture that we co-create with this puzzle maker. Who that puzzle maker is, that's another story. But we have reincarnation. We have perpetual soul development. We have the Anunnaki, or the alien astronaut theory of, hey, we see this blue marble, it's got some stuff we want. Oh, look, there's some hominids here. Let's tune them up and have them be a workforce for us. So again, we have this meat suit that is been engineered to do a lot of independent thought, do a lot of thinking, and just looking at the span of human development. Maybe, again, I'm just waking up, so don't quote me on the facts here. But it's been, about 100 years, 100 and change, that, Kitty Hawk was going on. And now we're in space with the International Space Station and a Boeing spaceship that doesn't go anywhere. Look it up later, kids. But anyway, the whole point of it is that if you pull back a little bit and look at the scope of human development, there's both a scientific as well as a spiritual component of evolution going on. And as souls that are driving these meat suits, aka human beings, we're continuously propagating that plan of increased self-development. And as you're developing the soul, the meat suits that we're using to do that is also being elevated, and that history is being saved, and it's being archived, and it's being utilized by the next generation, which is great. That's part of a larger plan. But here's the deal. I think that so if you look at the great storytellers for our time, let's just say George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, arguably is probably the best storytellers of this generation. Let's say that one of their common books that they read was Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces. But the whole, even if you didn't read that, what's another popular one we can look at? I mean, the heroic genre itself. Let's look at The Prophet. A lot of people have read one or two of those books, but the whole point of a hero's journey is that you start in one place, you either have to leave or choose to leave that place of origin. You have these enormously powerful, life-changing experiences during your journey, the hero's journey. And, one of my takeaways, kind of a sidebar here, is that real heroes are not measured by the battles that they won, but the battles they've lost. Because in loss, we develop wisdom, not necessarily knowledge. It is through that crucible of pain and suffering that we can emerge stronger or emerge weaker, and the hero emerges stronger. I also think that a lot of near-death experiencers are on the hero's journey because they follow that same kind of mythos. You're born in one place, you think you're a certain person, you're doing a certain thing, and then you have this traumatic experience, and whether that journey is a near-death experience or a spiritually transformative experience, or discovering that your body and your mind are actually velcroed together, you can pull those suckers apart And you can take that consciousness and do a bunch of things with it, out of body experiences, just for one example. But in a sense, if you look at it from a traditional muggle, basic human, Norman Rockwell perspective, we have become superhuman. We've become heroes. Now, whether you want to look at that as a Superman, or I forget the parody movie that's out there from right now, but Superbad, I think was the movie. I can't remember now. But the whole point of it is that we all have different backgrounds and experiences and talents and skill sets, and that tweak that we get, that download that we get, makes us superhuman. But what does that look like for you? That is specific to you. That doesn't mean you're the only one. There's a lot of remote viewers out there. There's a lot of people with psychometry. There's a lot of people who have sliders. And again, we all have these different skill sets, but I also think that we're afraid. We're afraid to utilize them because we so desperately want to fold back into the pack. We want to somehow either disregard or try to deny these new downloads and skill sets because we so desperately want to go back to our old lives because it's familiar. Even if it's toxic, it's familiar. And there's a whole another story we can talk about how people go back to toxic relationships just because they're familiar, to their own detriment. In some way, this is actually a benefit to the near-death experiencer and all the other alphabet soup folks, because you can't go back to who you are or were at that time. You are now a different person. You have been downloaded with a new operating system. And so you can't use the same peripherals that you had before because you're different. And so embrace that difference. Now, I personally have run into the very same thing. I had my near-death experience in 2005, but I have done it backwards. Before I could even drive, I was doing remote viewing. I was doing energy work. I had seen ghosts. And so I already had this kind of like transpersonal psychology thing going on prior. Once I had the near-death experience, things just kind of expanded, and the stuff that did pre-exist got dialed up to 11. So with all of that going on, I experienced the very same thing. I tried to be the hero, and the family that I had, the job that I had, it was all gone. And we talk about this in the IANDS literature all the time, that people basically become their own relocation outfit, or what it is when you commit a crime. Witness relocation program. So you end up, not everybody, but a lot of people, you end divorce, you leave your family, you leave your job, you leave your religion, you leave your support system, you leave town. So you do a Control-Alt-Delete sometimes in your entire life. And probably that's why they're the average of 7 years for people to come back and come back to society. But again, we need to stop focusing on trying to come back to society the way that we were. We need to embrace who we are after that near-death experience. And then how do we retain who we are but reintegrate into society? Because I think there's a bigger plan going on. And how we are in time, we're in 8 minutes, 9 minutes. Okay, so I've been in clinical research for 20 some years. And one of the things that we do in clinical research is called a registry trial. And it's a trial that'll run 10, 20 years. And in that time frame, we're like watching, let's skip the abstract. Let me just pick up something real. So let's say in the year 2000, I write a registry trial and I want to observe the long-term effects of smoking. And so we get, 5,000 people and we check in with them yearly. And we're just saying, what do you smoke? How often do you smoke? Do you have any, medications that you're having to take that are new? And do you have any new diagnoses? So let's just track that, okay? So now as we're moving forward in time, again, I'm not sure on the dates. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ears because it smells better. So the whole point is that when you are in this clinical trial, something new could come along that you didn't perceive originally. So around maybe say 2010, again, just pull that out of the air. Vaping came along. Now, we knew about chewing, knew about cigars, we knew about cigarettes, we knew about snuff, out of favor, but it was a variable that we did not understand nor perceive at the time that we started that trial. There was an external disruptor. So you got a couple choices. If you've got 5,000 people in the study and you go out there and say, hey, there's this new thing out there called vaping, and we want to be able to track that data too, you've got a couple things. And the biggest thing you'd worry about is that you've got people in the study who don't know about vaping. They're very dedicated to their method of acquisition of nicotine. And so I may disrupt the study by announcing to the study people at large that, hey, there's this new vector out there for obtaining nicotine. And those people who wouldn't have changed would have been curious sorts, because that's what humans are, and they'll go out there and they'll try it. And so you disrupt the ability to collect that clean data, because if you start in one avenue of nicotine administration, you want to end up the same place too, so that you can then have that longitudinal data that has such power. So what you do is you wait, and you see during that clinical study, over those years, they're going to come and they're going to talk, and they're going to say, have you changed anything? After we do this, are you doing your meds, and are you on a new medication? Are you still smoking? Is it still the same variable? They may bring up in this, I've heard about this thing called vaping, and I think I want to try that. So if they bring that information to you, or if you as a clinician, the researcher, become aware that this potential new vector can be pulled into the study, then what you do is you write an amended protocol, and you add in that new vector of vaping. And then you write up all the paperwork saying, hey, we're going to collect this new data point, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens at the end of that 10 years, you still have the highly desirable longitudinal data, because you have those people that weren't disrupted. They picked the lane and they stayed in it for the entire 10 years. Fantastic. But you also got this new data stream now that was previously not captured before. And so now you've got these people, this small cohort that you can say, oh, these are the people that actually experienced this new. So with this idea now in your head, let's apply this to humanity, all right? So let's say humanity is a clinical trial, and it runs not for, 5, 10 years. Let's say it runs for 50 to 100,000 years. Because you're an extraterrestrial outside of time, it doesn't really matter how long something takes. Or if you're AI being monitored by AI, it doesn't matter either. So taking time and the believability factor out of the equation, then let's go into, all right, so humanity is a clinical trial. We have taken this hominid, we've injected our DNA, we've done little tweaks here and there, and now we've turned them loose into the laboratory that is Earth. Now let's watch them and see what happens. And so they're doing this clinical trial, they're seeing how humanity develops, and then arguably something happened during this human experience. Something has come in and has disrupted that clinical trial. Now, whether that is an unintended discovery, humans have psychic abilities, or whether that is an interloper, another ET group is flying by and they see this ball and it's like, maybe we can do something with these things that are here. And so that's why we have these UAPs disappearing in and out of mesas and underwater and down in Antarctica. One could actually say that maybe Earth is just a well-known lab, and we've got probably, maybe 10, 15 different research projects going on concurrently. So one of the things I would propose is that we've got a lot of different people. Is your dog nice to dogs?